Within the 6 inches of space between the ears lies the most complex and highly intriguing biological creation that is considered as the grandest frontier of science, the brain. It boggles the mind. In today's episode, we have one such neurosurgeon who has dedicated his life to the study and practice of this amazing piece of biological marvel we all have but understand very little. Professor Ganapathy is the director of Apollo Telemedicine Network Foundation and Apollo Healthcare Services as well. He has held several prestigious positions in different organizations and taught at institutions like IIT Madras, Anna University, and Dr. MGR Medical University as well. He agreed to share his insights and perspective through through the Live Limitless show today. Without much ado, let's begin.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, ladies and gentlemen. This was how I started the first video conferencing talk I gave in the year 2001. Retrospectively looking back, to even think of multi-point video conferencing from a hospital 2 decades ago was something most unexpected. I would like to share with you how my life started purely with the intention of letting you others do not make the mistakes which I made perhaps. It all started on August 3rd, 1966. I was in the 11th standard. I got a message that my elder brother, an engineer, had died in a road traffic accident. At that minute, I decided to become a doctor. The scene now shifts to November 7th, 1972, a fourth year MBBS student preparing for my examinations. Again, a message, my eldest brother, again, a road traffic accident, a fatal road traffic accident. That minute, I decided to become a neurosurgeon. With such an intensive emotional involvement in head injuries, it was not surprising that I spent the initial part of my life in being an evangelist trying to make people wear helmets. Of course, before this, even as a medical student, I was perhaps a little out of the ordinary in the sense that in the 70s, it was almost unheard of for a second year, third year undergraduate student to publish papers in a PubMed index journal, but this was what I was able to do. I strongly believe that somebody a neurosurgeon who promotes the making of, or not really making, who promotes the wearing of helmets probably does more service than another who spends his entire lifetime operating on head injuries. As the secretary of the Neurological Society of India, I impleaded myself in a public interest litigation, appeared before a division bench of the High Court, and a division bench of the Madras High Court passed an order making helmets compulsory in the state of Tamilnadu. This was followed by scores and scores of appearances in schools, colleges, in the Rotary Club, the Lions Club, etc., evangelizing and promoting the use of helmets. December 25th, 1995, it was another memorable day for me. It was on this day, 22 years ago, that I helped promote in South Asia's first multiple organ transplant. After that, for the next couple of years, till about 2002, I was very active, crusading the recognition of brain death and promoting multi-organ transplant. In 1995, again, my love for technology surfaced and I helped start India's first stereotactic radiosurgery unit. 2008, this was followed by cyberknife or robotic radiosurgery. While I was getting into the peak of my career as a neurosurgeon, became the secretary and president of the Neurological Society of India, deep down, there was a nagging sensation. Am I really doing my best? At the best, maybe a few thousand lives I could save, but can I not do something more to touch the lives of hundreds of thousands of people? And this was when I heard the word telemedicine for the first time of my life in 1998. Making distance meaningless, making geography history became my mission from 1998. In 2000, on March 24th, Bill Clinton, on his visit to India, commissioned the world's first VSAT-enabled village hospital in Aragonda a state in Andhra Pradesh. Since then, there was no looking back at all. The first 5 years, 2000 to 2005, I had the opportunity to make presentations, some of them virtually, most of them virtually, some of them face to face with the President of Nigeria, the Prime Minister of Mauritius, the Prime Minister of Maldives, commissions from the European Union, and so on and so forth. This was followed by multi-point video conferencing, where we had neurosurgical CME programs throughout the world, all from a hospital. In one of my very early conferences, Bill Gates was one of the speakers. This led to a passion, and slowly this passion became more and more. 2 years ago, I brought out a special edition, a supplement to Neurology India called Extraterrestrial Neurosciences, where 14 articles were printed on neurological sciences in outer space. To me, the ultimate in providing remote healthcare was to measure the health parameters of the 3 Indian Waimonauts who would be in outer space in just 2 years from now. So this became my absolute mission. And of course, I was aided in this by a fantastic team, a street smart, passionate, devoted, multidisciplinary team. Most of the team consisted of of IT people, technologists, a few engineers, a few management people who have been familiar with management, etc. But none of us really were trained in telemedicine, which was just not in existence 20 years ago. Not possible was a word not in the lexicon of my team. An initial needs assessment, identifying champions, both in the community as well as in my own team, holding hands, acknowledging, rewarding good work, steadily raising the bar, using a lot of common sense, and most important, thoroughly understanding the exact needs of the community. This, I think, was the most important reason. Again, very early in my career as a telemedicine specialist, I realized that unless we generate revenue, the project would not be self-sustaining. With all this in mind, we embarked on a journey from which there has been no looking back. These pictures speak for themselves. Today, we have published several papers, and more than that, we have brought health to a community, an isolated state, Lahul and Spiti, at a height of 14,500 feet, minus 25 degrees temperature, the world's first 24/7 tele-emergency services in the Himalayas. More than 23,000 people have benefited out of this, including more than 1,500 emergency services which we have given. I could go on and on, but I would like to summarize what have I learned in the last 7 decades of my existence. First, raise the bar. Do not be content with low-hanging fruits. Do not try to be a perfectionist. You need to know when to give up, when to surrender. It is better to lose the battle in order to win the war. Look at failure as a learning experience. Anyone says he has not failed, he obviously is bluffing. The more you fail, the more is a learning experience. Do the job you hate the most. This is something which most of us are reluctant to do. Every one of us like to do something, and at the back of our mind, we tend to relegate to someone else a job which you hate to do. Change that. Unlearn. In 2021, the world is totally different. I belong to the BC era. I don't mean before COVID or before Corona. I'm talking of before computers. I was the last neurosurgeon in India who was trained before computers came into the healthcare system. So I need to relearn. I need to unlearn. Most important, I have to be future ready. And again, my dear friends, we are what we repeatedly do. One has to be a scientist, a scientific frame of mind, whatever be your vocation. Measure, measure, and continue to measure. If it cannot be measured, obviously it's not worth doing. And again, this is a mistake I made. Though I knew this, circumstances were such, I just could not spend enough effort and time on documentation, documentation, and documentation. Had I documented every mistake which I made in the last 20 years, I could have brought out several bestsellers by now. Continually assess what is working and what is not. And finally, New skills must be acquired. What got you here will not keep you there. So a Superman definitely is possible. You need a combination. You need to be a Mother Teresa. You need to be a Steve Jobs. You need to be Shushruta. In other words, you must know a little of everything rather than be a domain expert and rather than know more and more about less and less. One of my favorite phrases is what Sir William Osler said 150 years ago, and I think it is very relevant today. He said, here, here, here. What he meant was listen, listen, listen. The patient is telling you the diagnosis. In today's technology, today we live in a world of wearables, we live in a world of IoT, IOMT, Internet of Medical Things. Most doctors are just not willing to listen to a patient. He is telling you the diagnosis. Again, communicate, communicate, communicate. No patient is interested in your technical competence alone. You may have published all the papers, you may have several PhDs and whatnot, but what he wants to know is how much you care for him. In other words, empathizing, sympathizing with the patient is possible even today virtually. Tender loving care, the ability to wipe a tear off a patient can be done remotely, and I think this is what needs to be conveyed. Finally, clinical judgment and wisdom. I always wish to emphasize that technology is a means to achieve an end, not an end by itself. Lars Lexel, the inventor of the gamma knife, which 50 years ago was the healthcare industry's most sophisticated technology, he said, I quote, "A fool with a tool is still a fool." When you have a hammer, everything around you looks like a nail. And if it is an expensive hammer, even more so. Please remember that no intervention, the decision not to treat an MRI shadow, the decision not to treat a tumor picked up accidentally when doing a scan for a road traffic accident is also management to the patient. You need to treat the family. You need to treat the individual. You do not, I do not treat an investigation, a laboratory report. I do not even treat the pathology. I do not treat an MRI image. I treat the human being as a whole, treat the family. This, I think, is the most important thing. So finally, what would be my take-home message? My take-home message is do what you like to do, enjoy whatever you're doing, do not bother about the results. And I think that is where the Bhagavad Gita, one of the world's most respected scriptures, very clearly emphasizes what is called Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga. Karma Yoga is do your duty without expecting results, and Jnana Yoga is trying to achieve, understand what things are. I wish to thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity. 300 seconds is too short a time to condense your 7 decades of your life, but nevertheless, I have made an attempt. Thank you once again.